Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Leadership Reads on Conversation with Shenila. I am your host, Shenila Makhani, and this series is built on a simple belief that books have the power to shape leaders. Beyond the pages are stories, experiences, and ideas that can change the way we think, lead, and deliver results. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Yannick Arekion, author of Delivering the Certainty when complexity is the new normal. How organizational capability determine project success. By the way, Yannick, a long name. Yannick, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Shenila, and good morning, everyone, and good afternoon where you are. So it's afternoon my time. So thank you for inviting me today and looking forward for a good conversation.
Great. So, Yannick, first of all, congratulations on publishing the remarkable book. That title immediately caught my attention because I think every project management professional can relate to one phrase: complexity is the new normal. I would love to begin by asking what inspired you to write this book? Was there a particular experience or moment in your career that made you think that this is a conversation the professionals need to have?
Yes, thank you, Shenila. It's a good starting topic, and many people ask me the same thing. So I think just as a background, so I've been delivering projects. I've been in IT for over 30 years now. So when I look back, time flies. So during my career, so it started when IT was really small. So we were building really small system to solve one particular problem, and there was no complexity. When I look back now, it was pretty simple. We could plan, we had a schedule, and we knew exactly what we were building, and we would deploy into production. It would work. There would be one or two bugs, we'll fix it, and we will start to get value out of it. So in the last 10 years, so I've been called to many clients to come and help. So every time when I went to start to help, the pattern was the same. So the pattern that I started to observe was the morale was very low in the team. Most of the good people has already left. The budget was exhausted and there was no confidence from the executives. The project manager as well left. So when I started to look at those patterns, I realized that what was going wrong, why we could not call me before, right? So based on that, I started to look at all the lessons learned. So we started to put a lot of lessons learned. And then afterwards, I started to get involved into project reviews. So this is where I wanted afterwards to say, okay, so I've got a lot of experience, a lot of lessons learned. So let me try to write a book to start to give back to project managers based on all these learnings that I've acquired through the years of experience, and then what I've seen as well around project issues, why projects are going wrong. So it's a way for me to give back to the community.
Great. Because many people, write the book about project management frameworks, methodologies, but you focus, I think, more on in your book about organizational capability also, right? So why
Yes,
did you
that's
decide to
correct.
do that perspective?
So what I realize is that when I go and do recovery for program for projects, is when we look at now what is happening in most organization, we were moving from manual to digital, and now we are moving to the cloud. We are moving in the AI era. So there's a lot of work that is happening in the organization to transform from the way we work to to the new ways of working. So what has been happening is the traditional way when we develop project, we look at it on scope, on cost, on your schedule. So there are three metrics that we are trying to measure the project. to report on. But when you look at really what is happening, it's not three different dimensions that needs to be measured. So it's the moral of your team. It's the number of touch points. How much do you understand the requirements? How much integration points across the organization, the legislation requirements that needs to change, and all the different integration and dependencies between your project and many other projects that are in flight. So now this is where you can see the complexity. So those projects are not really in silo. They have a lot of touch points between those different projects. And what organizations fail to realize is that the capability to deliver projects is based on the capability that they've delivered before. But they don't really think for me to deliver something much bigger, do I have a capability to do that? So that's something that I have observed. Before you start to deliver, we need to really think the capability is not only on the technology that you have, it's on your process, on your people, and your tools. So if they've been managing requirements using a spreadsheet, managing 200 requirements, now have a new bigger system with 1,000 requirements, would a spreadsheet be sufficient? So this is what I have observed. We spend a lot of time building the capability as we go along to deliver the project. This is where the complexity is.
Great. So, Yannick, if I would look at the title, right, the word certainty appears prominently in the title, right? Yet today's organizations operate in uncertainty every day, right? So, what does delivering with certainty actually mean to you?
What we've realized is that we need more metrics. So when you need to deliver a project, we cannot go and rely on three metrics. So the scope, the schedule, and the cost. So there's much more than that we need to start to measure so that we know that we are on the right path. So what this book is about is that so this gives you certainty. How do we have more certainty that our project will succeed? We are going to deliver. So when I'm talking to a lot of executives in organization, what they tell me, the project is in flight, and then they tell me, Yannick, I don't know when it's going to blow up. Is it okay? Is it going to deliver? Because the project manager is reporting green, and is it going to come amber, red, and everyone will be leaving the organization, leaving the project. So this is what everyone calls the watermelon project. But now what I've also realized what this book is about perception. So every project manager that I talk to, no one wants to go and portray a watermelon project. The issue is with the perception because there's so many different dimensions that we can look at the project. Everyone has different perspective of a project. So on large project, the project manager would have a particular perspective. So this is where when you start to get the perspective of different people around the project that are looking at different domains, the solution quality, the transition to service, the architecture, the requirements, the testing. So this is where you start to get all the different perspective from different angles, so which is from different people in your team. And then from there, you have a bigger view. I'm calling it 360-degree view of a project. And then that gives you more certainty that if I'm going to report my project to be green, so this is the basis why I'm saying it's green, because it's only me. It's not a subjective view, it's a collective view. So now if we have different perspectives that are varying, that would warrant the team, the project manager to do a deep dive, to have a look, okay, let me see why some people might feel that something not going as well as it should in a particular domain. So that's what the book is about. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So that's a wonderful perspective. It naturally brings us to the core idea of the book. that and what we have observed, Yannick, might be you will also endorse that. No, organizations invest heavily in methodologies, in governance, in PMOs, in certifications. Yet many organizations or projects still struggle. So, in your opinion, what is the missing piece?
Yes, exactly right. So this is the core essence of a book as well. So what I've seen, and everyone has seen that. So organization are failing to deliver projects. So what they tend to do, they change their methodology. So they will put agile. I've seen many organizations we are moving to agile and thinking that that will solve a problem. But the methodology was never the problem in itself. It was the capability to deliver. Did we have the right process in place to be able to deliver that piece of work that we had? Do we have the right people? Do we have the right structure in the organization? Do we have the right servant leadership to really help the team? So you have people, process, and then the right tools as well. So we've all seen, we start a project, we have a lot of documentation. Oh, where are we going to store the documentation? We create some SharePoint library somewhere, and then we end up with multiple versions. We don't really know what is the right version. And then we start to work, okay, so how do we structure it? How do we keep the version? How do we build that process? And then when we need to go to production, there's a lot of complexity maneuvering the change management process in the organization. Most project manager would know. So we need to go to talk to the change management team. My project is urgent. I need to deploy into test or into production. Oh, there's 2 weeks lead time. No, we cannot wait for 2 weeks. So now we have to go and maneuver around the change process. For the architecture process is the same thing. Or sometimes there's no process. We spend a lot of time arguing what should the process be. So what the project is doing, instead of building the product that they need to develop, they are building the process as
Yeah,
well. They are building the tools.
I agree. So,
So
one
this is
thing,
where
yeah.
methodology has failed today, where we just shift from one methodology to another. But methodology was never the issue in the first place.
And I agree to it, right? It's a very common experience. I think we all have experience in our career and observed, I would say, more than that. So, one thing I particularly appreciated while reading this book, I got the opportunity so to read a little bit of it up till now, not finish it yet, was how practical it is, right? So, let's talk about what leaders can actually do. So, Yannick, imagine someone watching this conversation. It's already live, so daily people are watching. So, someone watching this conversation is leading a PMO or managing strategic projects, right? So, where should they begin if they genuinely want to improve delivery certainties? What should be their
So,
starting point? What do you think?
so the starting point is when we organization that most organizations are delivering projects. So the first thing that they need to do as well is this project give them a foundation and how do I start to gather my lessons learned from existing projects, and then how do I take those lessons learned and then I will classify them into four, I'm calling it four domains. So your ways of working, your team performance, and then your delivery performance, and then the governance and assurance. So under each of these four main domains, I try to keep it simple to keep four, and then you have subdomains. So your requirements management, your testing, everything will be under a particular domains where you can put in your lessons learned. So now again, so a lot of information is in this book is from experience. And we all know when a project is not working, you go and talk to another team, they tell you, oh, yes, the other project had the same issue. Yes, we've had that in this other project, but we've never learned from it. We, after a project is complete, we will write the lessons learned and we will file it, but the new project doesn't learn from it. Now, there's a good reason for it, because if we have thousands of lessons learned, we don't have time to go through each of those lessons learned to try to pick and choose which one is applicable for my project. But by classifying it into an easy way to be able to pick and choose what I need, this helps. So that's the first step that we need to do. And then when we start the project, you can start to have a look based on this quadrant, what is applicable for your project. And when you're building your schedule, you know, this is the thing that I need to look for. And then based on those things, this is where you will have different team members in your team. They will be able to assess those different subdomains to tell you whether it's performing or whether it needs more attention.
Great. So, Yannick, if I'm sure you have observed, it is a very huge observation we all had, I think, post-COVID, right? We often hear leaders talk about the digital transformation. And post-COVID, we have seen this more, right? So, do you believe organizations should focus first on technology or on capability?
So the capability is the people, the process, and the tools. So
Hmm.
so technology is part of it. So if we have a technology, we don't have a process on how to use the technology. So we are not going to have a consistent way of using it. A process is very important. So there's also a missed uh, communication, or people, many people don't like process, but we need to have a right process. Why do we need to have a right process? Is if something doesn't work, we can fix the process. You know where in the process it's broken. But if you don't have any process, when something's going wrong, you don't know why. You don't know, okay, where in the way I got to now, it is broken. But what I've also seen is process sometimes are not fit for purpose. We need to build a process that is fit for purpose. And as part of a process, we need to have a process to review that process. Very often when thing doesn't work completely, that it would trigger to review. But the review of a process should be continuous. So this is why in Agile we call your ways of working. So when we need to work together, we look at all the different process. We say, okay, this is how we will communicate. This is how we will gather requirements. This is how we are going to go about using our CI, CD to deploy to production. But we need to have a process. It doesn't mean that it needs to be bulky.
I agree. But there is one more aspect that complexity continues to increase every year, right? We are in 2026, right? After 4 years, going to be another decade, right? And we already, you can say organizations are trying to learn, improve, some were struggling also in coping up with the current trends and the uncertainties they are facing. So, what do you think? How should organizations prepare themselves for the next decade, which is due in 4 years?
This is why I wrote that book, because when I look back again, if I go back when I first started to build my first system,
Hmm.
so there was no complexity. One project manager by itself would be able to schedule, he was able to think, okay, yeah, this is how we are going to do it. But now it's so complex, so big that one person cannot think, cannot see the whole picture. This is why we need multiple perspective from different people. And then now, how do we put that into an organizational capability? This is why I created that framework. So we have a structure, we have a framework on how to gather different perspective so that the complexity doesn't, one person doesn't rely on himself to be able to understand the complexity, because it will not be possible. And also what we talk about is that we spoke about getting the lessons learned before. So this is what we will be calling the learning organization. So moving in the future, things are
Hmm.
changing. So this what I'm saying is that delivering with certainty, but complexity, and also a VUCA world where everything is volatile,
Hmm.
everything is uncertain, everything is changing. So we need to be able to adapt. So to adapt to the new ways of working, the new world, the new technology, we need to unlearn what we learned before. We need to unlearn the way we used to do things. And then we need to learn. So how do we do that? Is through our lessons learned, what's not working and how to adjust. So that again is very important, because a lot of people, they don't want to change the way we do things. And we have to. This is what we talk about process before. We need to have a process. Process must be changed. I've gone to a lot of teams. I've been asking them, "Oh, do you have a process?" They tell me, yes, we have a process. Are you following the process? No, we are not following the process. Or where's the process? Oh, it's somewhere documented in SharePoint, and no one can really point exactly where the process is. So they have a process for the sake of having a process. So that's very important.
Yes, I can't agree more to it. I have heard this response many times. Yeah. So now I would like to ask a slightly personal question to you, Yannick. Looking back over your career, what leadership lesson has stayed with you the most?
I think the leadership is that we can look at now. So when we talk about complexity, we talk about perspective from different people. So it's the people who deliver the project. So it's not process, it's not tools.
Hmm,
So you need to be able to get all the people in your team, your organization to follow you.
hmm,
So to be able to make that happen, so the leadership is about inspiring people. It's about believing in what we are delivering. So when you have a project to solve a particular problem, we need to believe in it, and then we need to share that belief, transmit that belief to my team, and then get my team to work alongside with me. This is what in Agile we call servant leadership. So
yeah,
we help them to move forward together so that we can deliver, and not only in a team, but the organization or across the ecosystem that we operate.
great, great. So let's have a little fun before we move towards closure. So please answer with the first thought that comes to mind when I say these lines or sentences. So what instinctively you come to your mind, just say it, right? And if it's a line, yeah, okay. So are you okay? Shall we start?
Yes,
Okay. So one word, right, that defines great leadership.
I think inspire.
Okay. And one book every leader should read other than your book.
It's very hard, so there's a lot of books, but one of the first book that I read when I was very young was from Anthony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within.
Okay. One habit that has contributed most to your success.
I think it is determination.
Okay.
So what very often I talk to my team. So every things are hard, is complex, but if you're not determined, it will be hard. You should not give up because step by step you're advancing. So it's very hard to go and climb a mountain using one step, but each step at a time you will get there. You just need to continue.
Okay. Um, one habit, you can say one misconception about project success.
A misconception about project success. So I think what I can see is that very often a project is to solve a particular problem. So a misconception very often is that we've closed a project without really understanding what is the value, what is the problem that has been solved. So very often I've seen many projects that are in flight, but it's very hard for the project manager to explain to me what is the problem that they are trying to solve. We've seen that we need to deploy a new CRM system. Why? What are we trying to do? So that's a lot. We need this new database, or we need to implement this new piece of technology. What exactly is the problem that we are trying to solve using that technology? And how do we measure the success afterwards, not by just deploying a system, because this is what we call shelfware as well. We've deployed a software, but it just went to the shelf because no one used it. We've deployed the best database, but no one needs a database. So that's very
Okay.
important.
Sounds interesting. One piece of advice for aspiring project leaders.
I think to be able to solve problem is very important. So understand what problem you're trying to solve, and then also understand that you're working with people. So people are not AI, they have emotions. So we need to be able to relate to the team. We need to be able to relate to the emotions and understand and help and work with the team members to achieve a collective goal that is delivering that project.
All right. So, before moving towards the conclusion, I would like to thank everybody who are commenting on the video. And among the comments, there is a question which I would like to ask you, Yannick. If you have to identify one organizational capability that leaders often underestimate, right, which one would it be and why? And one person, if I would add it, there is another question added to it. So, could you perhaps share an example from your own experience?
I don't see, is it in the chat, the question?
Okay, so let me just read it again. I'm just reading from the comments, right? That if you had to identify one organizational capability that leaders often underestimate, which one it would be, right? And why? And if you could perhaps share an example from your experience, that would be helpful.
Yes. So one capability is about the change management process.
Hmm.
So when we are building a new system, it's to be able to make things more efficient. It's to be able to change a process somewhere. So as what I'm seeing now in the real world is that people are reluctant to change. This is what we spoke about before, so the learning organization. So if I'm
Hmm.
changing the manual way that people are doing, so we can see now with AI, there'll
Hmm.
be a lot of automation. So project managers, or we will have a project administrator that is completing a project report every week or every fortnight. So that will be automated. So very often we can see people are reluctant to change because they've been doing that particular job in that particular way for 10, 20 years. So they will be pushing back on that. So that's on the end users and also with technologies. We are going to replace a lot of jobs like testing, software developers with AI. You will get this type of stakeholders that are reluctant to change. And what they tend to do often is try to slow down your project or prevent the project from being successful. So as a project manager, it's very important to identify those stakeholders and work with them and then help them to change and get along on that journey. So that's great. And that also for executives as well is that sometimes people are scared because of a risk of a change.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, Yannick, I would like to ask you one final question that if readers remember just one message after finishing your book, what would you hope that message is?
The hope what I want to do is that I want to leave a positive influence on every project. So I want people when they read my book, when they look at it, they think about my thinking process and what I've put inside the book and use it. And hopefully, if they save 1 day, 2 days, 3 days on their project, 3 days of delay. If you multiply that on 100 people project, that's a lot of money they saved. So I want to leave a positive impact on everyone delivering projects. So hopefully the money they save, they can use that to a good thing.
Great. So, for everyone watching, I generally encourage you to explore this book. If you are navigating complexity, leading transformations, or striving to build stronger organizational capability, I believe you will find valuable insights in Yannick's work. Yannick, where can our audience find your book?
It is available on Amazon.com. So if you go on Amazon, it's there for ordering. And after they read the book, feel free to reach out. So my email address is always inside the book. So I've got more materials that I am happy to share with any project managers and lessons learned that I've captured as well.
Great. Thank you. And we will also, when you access the recording of this conversation, you will find the link of this book as well at the footer of this conversation. So you can also, refer that if you want to navigate towards the book. So thank you so much, Yannick. It has truly been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing not only the story behind the book, but also your experiences and thoughtful insights on leadership and organizational capability. And thank you, everyone who joined us today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please consider sharing it with someone who is passionate about leadership, project management, and continuous learning. Don't forget to subscribe to Conversations with Shenila for more inspiring discussions with global leaders, authors, and practitioners. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose. Thank you and see you in the next episode. Bye and take care.
Thank you, Shenila, for inviting me.